Hello and welcome to the Kopala TV main news. We get straight into our headlines. GHPZ donate COVID materials worth $4,000 US. ZESCO explains water allocation for power generation in the country. Avema Zambia give details on the Presidential Empowerment Fund to marketeers. In international news, UK suspends extradition treaty with Hong Kong. Join us in a bit after this. To present the Kopala TV main news in detail, my name is Wabwila Musongole. The Global Health Practitioners of Zambia has donated assorted COVID materials worth $4,000 US to Lukamantano School and Hospital run by Zambia Helpers Society at a handover ceremony. Dr. Costa Malama represented GHPZ and he also explained what the organization is all about.
It is today on a very wonderful moment that we are to witness the handover ceremony of the donated assorted items that are meant for protection against various infections, including the COVID-19, that has been done by the Global Alliance of Zambian Healthcare Professionals. Today, it's very, very important that these items are much needed to help prevent COVID-19 and other related infections in the district, as well as also here at Lukamantano or Zambian Helpers Society Hospital.
Let's interact, because I believe the fight is for all of us. They've come, they've given us, but if we each don't play our part, we won't get there. And as us who've come here, I want to believe we are meant to be ambassadors to make the community realize that COVID-19 is true. We get into buses. Do you see what? But no, it's there. So as we come to receive the gifts, I want to believe we are now ambassadors to go back into the community and tell our friends that this disease is there.
Now, Global Alliance of Zambian Health Professionals is a collection of medical health professionals, mostly Zambians, most of them in the diaspora, but some like me, based locally. Global Health Alliance of Zambia Professionals is built on one basic idea, and that is to give back to the country and to give back to communities. The gifts that are being given today are given in recognition of the work that this institution does in the community. And with the advent of COVID-19, our members mobilized funds to the tune of $4,000 US and procured these gifts that are being given today.
So that is presenting the handover of all the assorted PPEs that have been given to us to Zambia Society Hospital.
I would like to extend our most sincere gratitude to the Alliance for whatever they have done for us, because so far they have given us a doctor who comes to help out every week. And today, as we have all witnessed, they have given us all these things that are going to assist the community around here. Like I said, the main function of the society here just goes to the school and this hospital. Now, without assistance from well-wishers the society would find itself in a lot of problems as we actually had until the Global Alliance came to our aid.
Moving on, the Association of Vendors and Marketeers, AVEMA Zambia, on the Copperbelt has given an update on the empowerment that they were given by the Patriotic Front government in order to empower the marketeers. Avema Kitwe District Chairperson Aston Sakala told Kopala TV News that 510 marketeers have benefited in Chisokone Market, and the total amount that has been given out is nearly 201,000 kwacha.
Chisokone Market alone, at Chisokone Air, we have given 165 marketeers, that is Chisokone Air, and 90,000 were given to Chisokone Air. Out of 90,000, we have collected 45,880. We have collected 45,880. And Chisokone B, we have given 158 marketeers to marketeers. And 94,000 were given to 158 marketeers. So far, we have collected 60,100. 60,100. Chisokone C, we have given 108 marketeers that have benefited, and 56,500 have been given to 108 marketeers. And so far we have collected 48,130. 48,130. At Chisokone Green Market, we have given 79 marketeers, and 39,500,000 have been given. 39,500 have been given to marketeers. And we have collected 27,750. We have collected 27,750. That is at Chisokone Green Market. And the total number of those marketeers that have benefited, they are 510 in Chisokone Market. 510 those that have benefited. And the total amount that have been given out is 280,000 in Chisokone. 280,000 so far. And we have collected 181,860. We have corrected 181,860. 465 marketeers were given 500 each, and 45 marketeers were given 1,000, meaning that we have got some groups that have graduated and now they have started getting 1,000.
In case you have just tuned in, you are watching the Kopala TV main news. Join us in a bit after the break.
Kopala TV, Kopala ya buena buena mumwesu Kopala. Kopala TV.
My number ishusho limentindeaza yama oji orushani Kopala TV
yama oji imuntu wandi yesu fwebene by fwebene fwebene naidede kalasti yako Kopala futi yaba Kopala
manje kuikatashani yoina naena ya kuntambo oro ni jiviji
wala iwe ile sango top star decoder channel 98 paku ninshi yatobera puta mensa ninshi yalila ni evidimbwe kule izimoli la femunjazi
so yurira ndati Kopala TV tayabanga ya boiling channel wako batu wachila tamba fe wino kwangwa filamba fyambo kupona uruwa mfotoro bantu ifuma chane wefingi fyamupura fi
alula iwe Kopala TV ni Kopala futhi eile kuchalo no ushali mokuba molasti elo ile sansa Kopala yonse my number ukwambila fipa my number pandula lwansha kito paketi ke mufurila mufuken chingola pa chingo begi na chidila bombo iwe ni Kopala TV iliko.
Muntu wanja pakushongora kufika top star wetata ndetambira pofi Kopala TV pachani o 98 apa kude konkana ne charo bamba to bamba ni pate after pate wo pate after pate wo Kopala TV OG. Kopala TV, available on Topstar Channel 98. Kopala TV, entertainment just for you.
Looking for an opportunity to grow your business? Well, Kopala TV has good news for all small-scale businesses. You can now advertise on Kopala TV's Makwebo. Bonseba na mayo na bashtata. Iseni mulangishe amakwebo yenu pamutengo uachepa nga 100 kwacha. Yes, you heard right. For as low as 100 kwacha, your business will get its peak. Whatever the business, we will advertise. All you need to do is send a text of what your business offers, indicating the name, location, and contact details to the number below. Payment for the advertising spot can be made through MTN mobile money on the number down below. Makwebo, make your business known.
One Zambia, one nation.
Zambia chalo chesu. Stop political violence.
I am Zambian. I am against political violence.
I am Zambian, and I say disarm all cadres now.
It's not one Zambia if we kill each other. Stop the violence.
It's not good killing one another as Zambians. Stop the violence.
Let's keep the peace in our streets. Let's work to stay one Zambia.
It's not one Zambia if we kill each other. Stop the violence.
Ndimwina Zambia. Lekeni ukulwa pamulandu wa politics.
Welcome back. National Action for Quality Education in Zambia, NAKEZ, says calling on government to close schools for examination classes due to an increase in number of coronavirus cases will only disable the examination calendar. Speaking to Kopala TV News, NAKEZ Executive Director Aaron Chansa says the organization has expressed fear over the safety of learners, and that is why it has not given learners any guarantee that they are going to be safe from the virus during this pandemic. Mr. Chansa also noted that it is impossible for non-examination classes to reopen schools due to a limited number of desks and classes.
The cost of electricity in this country is just too high, too unbearable for our schools. We feel that ZESCO should be able to craft a special tariff for schools, both private and public. And we are now calling on the Minister of Energy, Honorable Matthew Nkua, to prevail over this utility company, this public institution, to meet the Minister of General Education to be able to attend to this urgent matter. We can't have schools running out of power. We can't have schools struggling to buy this power, which is very, very essential. Right now, some of our schools are running without this commodity, and this has severe educational consequences for this country. And we feel that ZESCO must come through and attend to this matter. On another hand, we want to appeal to the Minister of Finance to set aside a special fund, a bailout package for schools, private schools who are currently struggling. Teachers in these schools have gone for months without getting their salaries. And as we submit this, we are cognizant of the fact that these are private schools, but government has a social and moral obligation to make sure that the suffering teachers are helped in this difficult period of COVID. Thank you.
Meanwhile, United Party for National Development, UPND, is calling on the Ministry of Education to rescind its decision of closing examination classes for 2 weeks in the midst of the rising numbers of COVID-19 infections. UPND Chairman for Mines and Freedom Fighter Percy Chanda says learners in examination classes are almost 2 months into the reopened school calendar with very little problems, and sending these pupils back home for 2 weeks is too risky, looking at the low levels of compliance of health rules and guidelines in the community. Mr. Chanda said after a break-off, both the pupils and teachers will have to start all over again in adhering the rules and guidelines.
We call upon the Minister of Education to rescind its decision of closing examination classes for 2 weeks in the midst of rising numbers of COVID-19. Learners in examination classes are almost 2 months now in school with very little problems. Sending these pupils back home for 2 weeks is too risky, looking at the low levels of compliance to health rules and guidelines in the community. The Minister of Education will do better to keep the learners confined to school life until they write their examinations. Both the teachers and pupils have built confidence in each other, and separating them for a while would greatly affect both of them. PF must also stop taking COVID-19 to schools by holding meetings there. This careless behavior from PF is uncalled for.
Still in local news, the Copperbelt Energy Corporation PLC (CEC) has recovered 1 positive case of COVID-19 among its members of staff at its operations head office in Kitwe. CEC says there are also 2 cases at Power Dynamos Football Club, which is sponsored by the corporation. This was said in a statement availed to Kopala TV News. And finally, in local news, Governance, Elections, Advocacy Research Services GEARS Initiative says the fate of Bill 10 is in limbo following the outbreak of COVID-19 at the National Assembly. GEARS Initiative Executive Director McDonald Chipenzi says the death and admission of some MPs who are key to debating Bill number 10 is a big blow to its survival, but good for its death as numbers cannot add up in the House. Mr. Chipenzi said it is doubtable that the MPs that are not yet infected by COVID-19 will risk their lives debating a bill amidst the raging virus.
Fate of the evil Bill 10 is now cast in limbo, ensuing the outbreak of the coronavirus right at the National Assembly grounds, or at the institution where the bill was supposed to be debated. The death and the admission of some members of parliament due to coronavirus infection is a great blow to those who have been pushing for the enactment of Bill 10, because this has rattled the numbers in the National Assembly, especially those who are supposed to vote for it. It is for this reason that we feel that Bill 10 is no longer a necessity to talk about. It is dusted, it is forgotten, and the country should now focus on other pressing issues, including the fight against the contraction and the spread of the coronavirus in this country. The institution, which is the National Assembly, has become one of the epicenters of the contraction and spread of the disease, second only to Nakonde border post. So you cannot continue to risk the lives of the members of parliament, their spouses, their families, the friends, and the constituents where they come from. I think that would be evil, irresponsible, and indeed very, very insensitive on the part of the management of the National Assembly and indeed the presiding officers. Those that are not yet infected will definitely have 3 thoughts before deciding whether to go and register themselves or indeed stay away from the National Assembly. It is important, therefore, that if the presiding officers and the management at the National Assembly are not willing to have this sitting suspended due to the outbreak of the coronavirus at the institution, one of the members of parliament should be able to raise a point of order to compel the leader of government business in the House and the Speaker to suspend the sittings of the House until the situation is normalized. It's very amazing, however, that in March, Parliament was suspended, was adjourned because of the rumors of the outbreak of the virus around the country. But now when the virus is right in the benches, in the seats, on the seats where these MPs are sitting to debate national matters, the National Assembly is very reluctant to suspend business of the National Assembly. This is extremely, very, very bizarre and unbelievable. However, we continue to reiterate that to save lives and also to save national resources due to by-elections that are now being caused by the death of members of parliament due to coronavirus, Parliament must immediately suspend its business and adjourn India.
In case you have just tuned in, you are still watching the Kopala TV main news. We break once more and return with international news.
Kopala TV, Kopala ya buena mumwesu Kopala.
My number ishusho limentindeaza yama oji urushani Kopala TV
yama oji imuntu wandi Yesu fwebene by fwebene naidede kalasti yako Kopala futi yaba Kopala
manje kuikatashani yoina naena ya kuntambo oroni jiviji
wala iwe ile sango top star decoder channel 98 paku ninshi yatobera puta mensa ninshi yalila ni evidimbwe kule izimuli la femunjazi
so yulila ndati Kopala TV tayawanga ya boiling channel wako batu wachila tamba fe wino kwangwa filamba fyambo kupona uruwa mfotoro bantu ifuma chane wefingi fyamupula fi
alula iwe Kopala TV ni Kopala futhi kuchalo no ushali mokuba molasti elo ile sansa Kopala yonse my number ukwambila pepe my number pandula lwansha kito paketi ke mufudila mufuken chingola pa chingo begi na chidila bomwe ni Kopala TV liko
muntu wanja pakushongora fika top star we tata nde tambera pofi Kopala TV pachani o 98 pakude konkana ne charo bampa to bamba ni pate after pate wo pate after pate wo Kopala TV OG Kopala TV, available on Topstar Channel 98. Kopala TV, entertainment just for you.
Looking for an opportunity to grow your business? Well, Kopala TV has good news for all small-scale businesses. You can now advertise on Kopala TV's Makwebo. Bonseba na mayo na bashtata. Iseni mulangishe amakwebo yenu pamutengo uachepa nga 100 kwacha. Yes, you heard right. For as low as 100 kwacha, your business will get its peak. Whatever the business, we will advertise. All you need to do is send a text of what your business offers, indicating the name, location, and contact details to the number below. Payment for the advertising spot can be made through MTN mobile money on the number down below. Makwebo, make your business known.
One Zambia, one nation.
Zambia chalo chesu. Stop political violence.
I am Zambian. I am against political violence.
I am Zambian, and I say disarm all cadres now.
It's not one Zambia if we kill each other. Stop the violence.
It's not good killing one another as Zambians. Stop the violence.
Let's keep the peace in our streets. Let's work to stay one Zambia.
It's not one Zambia if we kill each other. Stop the violence.
Ndi mwina Zambia, lekeni ukulwa pamulandu wa politics.
Welcome back. In foreign news, the UK government will suspend the extradition treaty with Hong Kong immediately and indefinitely. Announcing the move, Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said the UK wants a positive relationship with China, but that the imposition of the new security law in Hong Kong by Beijing is a serious violation of the country's international obligations. The extradition treaty means that if someone in Hong Kong is suspected of a crime in the UK, then the British authorities can ask Hong Kong to hand them over to face justice and vice versa. The UK fears that the arrangements, which have been in place for more than 30 years, could see anyone it extradites to Hong Kong being sent to China. We monitored the BBC for this report.
Security legislation has significantly changed key assumptions underpinning our extradition treaty arrangements with Hong Kong. And I have to say, I'm particularly concerned about Articles 55 to 59 of the law, which give mainland Chinese authorities the ability to assume jurisdiction over certain cases and to try those cases in mainland Chinese courts. Mr. Speaker, the national security law does not provide legal or judicial safeguards in such cases, and I'm also concerned about the potential reach of the extraterritorial provisions. So I have consulted with the Home Secretary, the Justice Secretary and the Attorney General, and the government has decided to suspend the extradition treaty immediately and indefinitely.
Now, the UK's extradition treaty with Hong Kong means that if someone in Hong Kong is suspected of a crime in the UK, then British authorities can ask Hong Kong to hand them over to face justice, and also, of course, vice versa. Now, Hong Kong has a similar extradition agreement with 19 other countries, including Canada and Australia. They've already suspended their extradition agreements due to the same fear. So how is this going down in Beijing? Well, as you might expect, China's foreign ministry is not pleased with the UK's decision to suspend the treaty, a plan it sees as an attempt to interfere in its internal affairs.
These Hong Kong-related remarks turn a blind eye to the basic facts that the national security law is for the sustained success of one country, two systems. It goes against the international law and international norms. We strongly condemn these wrong words and actions. We urge the UK to make no more steps down the wrong path so as to avoid further damage to China-UK relations.
Well, in the UK, the government's move has the support of the opposition Labour Party, but they've called on the government to go further in demonstrating their condemnation. Well, here's the Labour Party leader, Sir Keir Starmer, speaking a little earlier.
Now, of course, there's been a long and deep relationship between the Chinese people and the United Kingdom, but some of the actions of the government are deeply concerning, and we can't turn a blind eye, and we shouldn't turn a blind eye. Look at what they say about extradition, but it looks like it'll be a step in the right direction, and therefore we would support that. We would say go further. You can impose sanctions, and you should impose sanctions here in the United Kingdom. So we say to the government, we'll wait and see on extradition, but that's a step in the right direction, but go further as well.
But while tensions between London and Beijing have clearly escalated in recent weeks, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says that keeping a good relationship with China is crucial.
There is a balance here, and I'm not going to be sort of pushed into a position of becoming a knee-jerk xenophobe on every issue, somebody who is automatically anti-China. But we do have serious concerns. We've got to have a calibrated response, and we're going to be tough on some things, but also going to continue to engage.
So Boris Johnson there has made it clear that he wants to continue trading and also working in a positive way with China where possible. But clearly, as tensions continue to rise, that might be difficult. Well, here's Isabel Hilton, CEO of the Chinese analysis website China Dialogue, on why.
The mood is currently rather against that, and certainly the mood inside the Conservative Party would make it very difficult for Boris Johnson to get any legislation through the House of Commons, which his backbench has disapproved of. So we've seen the Huawei episode, and I would watch closely to see whether there are now moves against the proposition that China should build and operate a nuclear power plant in this country. Because there's some murmuring about that, and that may well be the next casualty. Were that to happen, I think we would certainly again see a strong reaction from China, and there would be not a great deal to hope for in terms of the things that Britain would want, which is, greater progress, for example, on investment, greater access to the Chinese market. I think those are going to be pretty chilly for the time being, at least.
Well, the new national security law has already seen a number of key pro-democracy activists leave Hong Kong over fear of being arrested. One of them is Nathan Law, who is a founding member of the territory's now disbanded main pro-democracy party, Demosisto. Now, he was elected to Hong Kong's Legislative Council, and in fact, this is Nathan leaving prison on bail back in 2017 after being jailed for his role in the 2014 Umbrella Movement protest. Well, after leaving Hong Kong upon fear of being imprisoned under the new security law, Nathan Law is now in London, and I can say that he joins us live. It's good to have you with us. We heard this announcement that the UK is suspending the extradition treaty with Hong Kong, also extending to Hong Kong the arms embargo. I know that the opposition leader wants to go further. You've been speaking with members of the opposition party. What extra would you like to see the UK do?
Yeah, I've been spoken with the MPs from both aisles, and they all really are in support of the democratic movement in Hong Kong, and we could see that it's a structural shift in regards to the attitude towards China. It's becoming more and more assertive, and this is shared by both the opposition and the incumbent party. And for them, I think there are several ways that we could move the things forward. For example, expanding the lifeboat plan and making sure that there are more and more people eligible for that, and providing necessary help, and also working closely to other allies in the Europe and around the world to make sure that we have a value-bound community that will fight against the authoritarian expansion of China. So we've got a lot of things to do, and we should do it collaboratively.
And talk to us about your position, because last time we spoke was a couple of weeks ago before we could say that you were actually in the UK. You, of course, were elected to the Hong Kong Legislative Council and then removed from that position. Your position now, you're unelected, but you're speaking on behalf of the people of Hong Kong who are pro-democracy.
Well, definitely. Under the national security law, there are, a lot of restriction on what they can say in Hong Kong, basically. For example, if you say something, you urge the other countries to have sanctioning, or even you so-called stir hatred towards central government or the Hong Kong government, you could be prosecuted under national security law and face lifelong imprisonment. And the fact that the law is written in such a vague term that everyone could be fallen into the trap as long as the government wants to impose political suppression. So for me, yes, indeed, we've got a massive movement with millions of people participating in it, and I'm saying something that they're highly unable to say it in Hong Kong.
Now, Carrie Lam, who is the head of, represents the Chinese government in Hong Kong, she insists that the one country, two systems scenario is still effective regardless of this new security law. How do you explain then, how do you say that that is not the case, given that she insists that one country, two system is fully effective, that Hong Kong still has its rights?
Well, that is a blatant lie. If you see how many countries reacted to the national security law with so many assertive measures, for example, Canada, Australia, the US, UK, they've been providing safeguard plans and also relevant measures. You could see that the world actually recognized there is a crisis in Hong Kong, and that is the complete erosion of one country, two systems. People are losing their freedom of expression in Hong Kong. People are being arrested just because they're in possession of the stickers or flags that has the slogans of the movement on. And the government issued a statement saying that one of the slogans of the movement is violating the law. They're literally punishing people by what they say or what they think. So this is something that we do not see in a democratic country. So this is basically the end of one country, two systems, and the freedom that we used to enjoy.
Did Britain miss a trick when the handover of power took place, when Hong Kong was given back to Beijing? Should the Hong Kong citizens who had the ability to become British citizens, should that have been given then? Would that have been helpful going forward?
Well, I think it is very difficult to look these issues retrospectively. But for now, I think UK has a very unique historical obligation to really, commit into the Sino-British Joint Declaration and offer this help to Hong Kong people. And I hope that it could expand to those people who were born after the handover, likely the age group 18 to 23, to enjoy the similar benefits from it in order to better protect them.
Nathan Law there, a pro-democracy activist who is now in the UK. Well, the new Hong Kong security law that we were discussing is only one of a series of major issues of contention between the UK and China. Last week, we saw the UK banning Huawei from British 5G networks over concerns over cybersecurity. And the UK has also stepped up its criticism of China's human rights record. Mr. Raab has accused Beijing of gross and egregious abuses against the Uyghur population in Xinjiang province. This is drone footage that has been widely circulated and authenticated by Australian security services. It appears to show lines of Uyghurs being blindfolded and led to trains. However, China's UK ambassador Liu Xiaoming dismissed talks of concentration camps as being fake in an interview with the BBC's Andrew Marr this Sunday.
I do not know where you get this videotape. You know, sometimes you have a transfer of prisons and prisoners, you know, in any country.
But just what is happening here, Ambassador?
I do not know. Where did you get these video clips?
These have been going around the world. They've been authenticated by Western intelligence agencies and by Australian experts who say these are Uyghur people being pushed onto trains and taken off.
Let me tell you this. The so-called Western intelligence keeping up make this a false accusation against China.
Well, this interview this Sunday actually covered a range of topics, which included tensions over Huawei and also Hong Kong. And somewhat surprisingly, clips from it did air on China's own television channel, CCTV, but not that particular section about Xinjiang, as pointed out on Twitter by the Washington Post's Beijing bureau chief, Anna Fifield. She tweets that China obviously thinks its ambassador to the UK did a good job on Andrew Marr's show on the BBC at the weekend. They're playing it on state TV this morning, but the clips about Hong Kong and Xinjiang are not being played. Let's discuss all the very latest diplomatic tensions with Vincent Nye from our BBC Chinese service. So, Vincent, what do you think going forward? How is the UK-China relationship going to be impacted by this particular latest development?
Well, Kasia, to some extent, what was announced this afternoon by Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary, was quite expected because UK as a former colonial power in Hong Kong, when things does not turn out to be as expected, the UK would want to do something. But I think, you know, from China's perspective, this is a blatant interference into Chinese domestic affairs because China has overemphasized on this, you know, Hong Kong as a part of China, which Hong Kong is a part of China. since 1997. But for the UK to make such an announcement, especially following what Washington has just done to a Chinese domestic audience, this is again showing that foreign forces are interfering into Chinese domestic affairs. So what I'm trying to suggest is that there will be testing times ahead for this Sino-British relationship.
And given, Vincent, let's face it, the size of the UK, the growing power of China, does Beijing actually care about what the UK thinks?
Well, I think to some extent Beijing does care to a great deal, because Britain, as you suggest, might not be the world's most populous country, the biggest export or import market. However, Britain holds huge, enormous persuasion power, not just in the West, in English-speaking countries, but also in the East, in many Asian countries. Britain has its prestige. That's why China was so keen to invest into key infrastructure projects in this country. That's why Beijing is also very keen to have British prime ministers to endorse China's Belt and Road Initiative, because Britain can set an example to the rest of the world when they engage with China. So China does care to a great deal. But I suppose Boris Johnson today also made it very clear that he doesn't want to be seen as anti-China, because from his perspective, he has to calculate this post-Brexit global Britain. What does that mean, and where does that put Sino-British relationship?
Economic prudence has been central to Germany's political image and the way it hoped to lead Europe. But the coronavirus pandemic has forced Chancellor Angela Merkel to make a drastic change towards spending. We monitored Al Jazeera for this story.
Angela Merkel's mantra was always for European partners to live within their means. But then came Corona, and with it what she calls the biggest challenge post-war Europe has faced. Reason enough, in her mind, to abandon 12 years of thrift and use the German presidency of the EU to its best advantage.
What we want now, the Recovery Fund or the Next Generation EU programme, it has to be staggering, something special, because the task at hand is huge. So the answer has to be big as well.
Some analysts say what changed her mind was the indiscriminate nature of the pandemic, that the countries who need the most help did not bring about their own misfortune.
She realized, okay, first it's an issue of solidarity, real human solidarity, not a political one. But then second, also on the political level, to help those governments actually who are already close to an economic bankrupt due to the shutdown of their countries and their economies.
But how much of Merkel's mission is altruism and how much enlightened self-interest? Because Germany remains the main source both for import and export goods for a majority of EU member states. Meaning the harder that they suffer now, the more likely the currently ailing German economy might suffer further down the line.
There's certainly a combination of self-interest, but also an understanding that this is the moment for leadership within Europe, and Germany might be the right player to execute this leadership. It will be the last presidency under Chancellor Merkel, so it's her time to create a legacy project and move the European Union forward in a substantial degree.
Surveys suggest many Germans approve of Merkel's handling of the coronavirus, but they are also worried at the effect it's had on their economy. Germany is in recession, with millions of people either on reduced hours or unemployed, which explains why the Macron-Merkel plan is unpopular in some conservative circles. Many Germans like to think of themselves as good Europeans, willing to help friends and neighbours in their time of need. That's usually meant their government lending money to other EU countries. But now that Merkel wants to give their money away, will that change? Dominic Kane, Al Jazeera, Berlin.
Finally, in foreign news, the delayed release of an intelligence report on Russia has been announced in the United Kingdom. It says Moscow is attempting to interfere in UK politics, and there is evidence that Kremlin has tried to meddle in elections, but the UK was slow to recognize the threat. It also says there is credible information that Russia attempted to influence the 2014 Scottish independence referendum, but it is hard to prove interference in the 2016 Brexit referendum. This report warns that Russia's cyber capacity is a matter of grave concern that poses immediate threat to Britain's national security. We monitored Al Jazeera once again.
Finally here, the 50-page document here that was outlined in that press conference given by the members of the ISC, the intelligence community that was looking into this. And it does paint a rather dismal picture of how lax the UK government has been in terms of dealing with this sort of threat, and that it has been trying to juggle that with a sort of prosperity strategy that was in place in the country, and also lays the blame at successive UK governments for not treating it as seriously as it should have been, that Russia considers the UK to be one of its top intelligence targets, and that it should have recognised this off the back of the 2014 Scottish independence referendum, when there were already signs of Russian interference there, but it failed to tackle that at the time, and then going subsequently into the European Union independence referendum as well. The problem was that they didn't see specific threats, but however, what was difficult to gauge, and they said this in the report, was exactly how that disinformation that was played out across social media platforms could have influenced people. They say they can't tell that. It would be impossible to tell how much that affected that. But really, it was the fault of the governments at the time for not taking this strategy seriously by Russia.
The report, Sonia, says that the UK was targeted because of its relationship with the US. How damaging has the interference been to the UK overall, and what has been done to counter it, if anything?
Well, Folly, precious little if you listen to what the ISC said at the time when regarding to that. It wasn't so much as that they willfully wanted to resist any form of investigation or any look into how corrosive Russian interference was in British society, but also they didn't want to know. They didn't want to touch it with, as they put it, with a 10-foot pole. The problem is that this is not just in terms of electoral interference, of hacking as well, but more subtle forms of interference as well. How prominent Russians were able to infiltrate British society and then created a sort of cottage industry of really sort of getting into the heart of British society as well. It came in the form of prominent Russians giving political donations to parties such as the Conservative Party, the ruling party now, and also in terms of creating this other landscape where they co-opted lawyers, accountants, and estate agents into spreading their influence, what a phenomenon that's known here as Londongrad. So really, it's not just the sort of aggressive approach that has been taken, as we've been seeing with the hacking, not just in this country, but also with the Democratic Party that happened in 2016, but also the softer power of that influence as well, which, and this report lays that open to say that the failure to tackle that has really brought us to the situation where we are now at, and really that governments need to tackle this, not just the UK in itself, but it needs to also have a cross-government and also an international strategy to deal with this kind of interference, Folly.
Thank you for that. Sonia Gallego live there in London, and we'll have more reaction and analysis of this report released today on Russian interference in the UK. Sonia, thank you very much for the moment.
That item concludes the Kopala TV main news for today, but before we go, we recap on our headline stories. GHPZ donates COVID materials worth $4,000 US. Zesco explains water allocation for power generation in the country. Avema Zambia gives details on the Presidential Empowerment Fund to marketeers. In international news, the UK suspends extradition treaty with Hong Kong. Thank you for watching the Kopala TV main news. My name is Kopala Musongole. God bless.